some other, high profile personalities or journalists that come to mind, Erin Molan, Yvonne Sampson, Mel McLaughlin, who did the Big Bash on Channel 10, Lara Pitt on Fox Sports, Danica Mason. So there's quite a large cohort of females now in and around sport that have quite a large presence. It's really exciting to see, isn't it? That, females, even we were talking before about how it was a while before you got to a point where you could this became your full-time job, running and competing, and, you had to work on the side to get ends meet. But it's awesome now that females have such an opportunity to be able to, play the sport they love and make a living, be on TV, share their thoughts and ideas, and be so involved. It's great, isn't it?
Oh, look, it's wonderful. And you've mentioned all those women, and they're smart, intelligent, well-educated women. That's the one thing too that you love, is that, when you're getting people that are taking on these roles, they know their stuff. And I think that's, really key as well. But talking about female sport, that's one thing I've noticed over years, how it's just getting so much more attention. I mean, just to see, the women's AFL, like what they're doing there, getting more attention to the Big Bash, to cricket, to, football. There's so many areas now. And I know that even with the rugby sevens, like I've got a whole lot of athletes who are wanting to be part of that program, which is wonderful too. So yeah, women's sport is definitely improving enormously. They're getting a lot of more attention, media attention. I think also too, social media allows them to get a lot more scope for media, attention as well. So yeah, it's great to watch. It's great to see.
One of them that we didn't mention also was Debbie Spillane with ABC Grandstand as well.
One of the best.
Yeah,
Yes.
Long time.
Listening to her, all the time when I was out at Narromine, because the ABC would be on a lot. Yeah, she's one of the icons, isn't she?
Iconic,
especially.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah, iconic for sure. No, she's fabulous.
What have you experienced any challenges in that respect? Being a female, we talked about, early in your career, obviously, having to work part-time, or we haven't really discussed that, but working on the side whilst training and trying to fit in your training routine. Also any other challenges you've faced, coming into media and working in television?
No, I think, look, people ask me, did you struggle being a female, in the sport of track and field? The thing was, we never did, because we were just lucky we're in the area that Kathy Freeman and I were racing, being competitive week in and week out. So we actually were doing well on the track. So we were getting a lot of media attention. And I think because we had that competition week in and week out, and we had all these, what they called Grand Prix around Australia. And the actual Australian female track and field team was very successful. So in our sport, we didn't really feel it at the time, because, we were getting the results. So we're very lucky like that. I don't feel as though we missed out by any means, and had a lot of support. And also too, we had the Sydney Olympics coming up. So then there was a lot more money in the sport because those Olympics was coming up. So then we did get the sponsorships that you needed to be able to run. But yes, when you're young and you're proving yourself, it is really hard to, I used to work at the Regent Hotel. I worked in a fish and chip shop. I worked in a sports store. Like, I was just doing what I could do to, to be able to work, not being on my feet too long to then be able to train, but it's still very difficult by any means. So once you become you get those sponsorship and be able to train, recover, train, it makes a massive difference to your performance for sure.
Almost just trying to keep your dream afloat, isn't it, at work?
Yeah.
And
like, I was lucky. Sorry, Hayden. I was very lucky because I had the support of my mum and dad. They could help me with that. They luckily bought a unit in Sydney that my brother and I could live at. We paid $50 a week for rent. Actually, I'm not even sure if I probably paid it regularly. So we were very well, and my parents worked hard. Like, they were farmers. They've been through drought. They've been through a lot of hard times themselves, but they sacrificed things to allow us to do that and allowed me to follow my dreams. So I was very lucky for sure.
Yeah, I think any of the listeners who haven't met the Gainsfords, we could pull the whole family on here and do a NORMLESS podcast, couldn't we?
You could definitely, we could take up hours.
But yeah, so it's so good to hear, you know, I guess as we were talking about before, the great developments, including things like the NRLW, Super W, AFLW, women's opportunities in sport. But also in terms of your coaching clinics, have you noticed an increase in the number of young female athletes coming to you for coaching and assistance?
Oh, I don't know an increase, but I do have a lot for sure. I think the biggest thing is with female athletes, it's trying to get them through those teenage years. I think that's the biggest part, you know, because as they grow up, you know, they're wanting to party, go to parties, what's important, what's not important, trying to be cool with their friends. How does their friends react to them wanting to train? So I actually think with females, it's probably males too, don't get me wrong, but if we're talking about the females, it's just keeping them invested in that teenage years. Because when they're young, it's easy, they're all, you know, friends, they're making friendships, which is great through team sports. And that's one of the things I have to make sure with my group. Athletics is a individual sport, but if I create a good environment that when they're turning up and they're training with their friends, then they'll want to keep doing it, you know, and that's, I think, is really important. So with females, I think it's really important to make them feel empowered when they're teenagers, and tell them it's great that you're out here, you're being fit and healthy. Yes, maybe you want to go and party, that's fine, but don't ever sit down and think what if, because you can later on get on later in life and think, geez, you know, I can't even tell you how many people have said to me that they used to run, or they used to run around when I did, but I gave up because of drinking that, and then they wish they didn't, because they look at other people not doing that. And as I always say, if you go to Olympics, the after party is very, very good. So it's worth the sacrifice of maybe giving up a party or two to be able to get that incredible experience.
Yeah, is there anything you want to disclose about the after parties? Again,
No.
there's
You know what they say, what goes on tour stays on tour.